One step and two-step linear equation secret code brought to you by Precision Academic World. Okay, these are important things to note. One, always work on both sides of the equation. Assuming you have an equation such as x plus y is equal to 8, it's important that you know that this is the right hand side of this equation, so I'll just write it in short form RHX, and this is the left hand side. So we work on both sides of the equation. Treat each side, left and right, independently, very important, and put your answer downward. Now look at what we simply mean here. So when you solve, put your answers downward, so maintain the equality sign, keep putting your answer downward. Unlike when we are in lower classes, when you did 2 plus 4, you are asked to write your answer straight here as 6. That makes sense, and that's actually correct. But in algebra, you'll be advised to put your answer downward, in the sense that when you have 4 plus 2 this time around, or 2 plus 4, you just put your answer downwards as 6. So the 6 comes down because you are going to have an equality sign, so that you can treat each side of the equation independently. Don't worry if this does not make sense to you. Let's get to the next slide. We're going to break things down bit by bit, and it will definitely make more sense to you. Let's continue. So let's start with one-step linear equation. Here we have a plus b is equal to c when the variables are alone. So we have a plus b is equal to c, and we said when the variables are alone. Here we'll have 3 variables, a, b, and c. Assuming we'll have something of the nature a, b, so we can say they are together. But here you can see a is standing alone, b is standing alone, and c is standing alone. So we say in this situation, every variable here is standing alone. Now think about this like a balance. Let's say we have a balance of the form. So let me make a quick sketch. And then on this balance, it's carrying some things here, and it's also carrying some things on this end. So let's say this is the left hand side, like I told you, and this is the right hand side of the balance. Now in this balance, this is the equality sign. This is where you have the left hand side equating to the right hand side. So let's say we have some things inside this balance. Maybe we'll have a pink here, a pink ball, a green ball, and yellow. On this other end we'll have blue and green. We are asked to maybe move every of this ball on this end, move every of the ball except the pink to the right hand side. So we've been instructed to move every one of them to this other end. So let's do that. What we have to do is that we have to move this green one, we'll move it to this end, right? So if we move the green one to the other end, it simply means we're not going to have a green ball here again. And then if we also move the yellow one to this other end, it means we cannot have a yellow one here again. So let's say the modified version of this balance is going to be of the form, don't worry, just follow me close, this is going to make more sense to you. The modified version of this balance is going to be of the form green, which has been here, like you can see. Blue is going to be maintained, then yellow, this yellow comes in, we have another green here coming in, and then we'll be left with only pink. On this left hand side, we now have only the pink ball, while here we have on the right hand side we have various colors. Reason being because we moved this other green here, making it 2 greens, and we also moved a yellow here, making it what? 1 yellow. So we have 1 blue, which has been there already, 2 greens, and 1 yellow. So very simple. Now if we have this situation, A as green, B as pink, and C as yellow, and we are asked to move A to the right hand side. Remember, this is the left hand side and this is the right hand side. Assuming we are asked to move A to the right hand side, which means move A to this other end, thereby leaving only B. What we are going to have at the end of the day when we do that is that we are going to be left with B here is equal to C and A. But assuming we are asked to move B to this other end, what we are going to be left with is what? A is equal to C and B. So for the first situation, B is the subject, while the second situation, A is the subject. So now this is just the basic things you're going to be doing in algebra. But then we are going to bring in the right rule, the right sense, or the right application to do this. So let's do that. We had A plus B is equal to C. Remember, they are all alone when the variables are all alone, and we are asked now, let's say, make a sort of formula. If we are to make a sort of formula, it simply means we have to move this to the other end of it. So remember the important reminders from the beginning of this class. We have to, okay, let's check that. Always work on both sides, which is very necessary, and then treat each side independently. Let's go back to that slide and continue. So for this one now, because we want to remove B, like move B to this other end, what can we do? We have to work on both sides. Very, very necessary. So doing that, because we have a plus here, remember, if you have a plus, the opposite is a minus, and if you have a division, the opposite is a multiplication. So what we can simply do is, because we have a plus, we can subtract on both sides. You have to do everything on both sides. So we have A here, then plus B, that's the initial left hand side, and here we just have C. Because we want to work on both sides, we are going to subtract B from both sides. Subtract B from both sides. Reason being because we had a plus here and we are expected to have a minus here. Now remember, when I explained this to you, I didn't make use of signs. I was just keeping it simple. Now we are getting into the application of math, into what we explained initially. So right now, let's continue from here. Positive B minus B, that's when you have different signs, subtract, right? So because they are subtracting, B minus B is 0, so they go away, and then on this left hand side, they're going to be left with only A. A is equal to C minus B, and it makes sense because at the end of the day, we are left with only A on the left hand side, while on the right hand side, we are left with what? C and then negative B. The sign changed because it moved. Crossing the equality sign, you have a negative. But even if you don't understand that, remember, we had to subtract B from both sides of the equation. So this is the process or the procedure you have to follow whenever the variables are alone. Let's go ahead and do the next one, or solve questions on this so I can make more sense. For the very first question, we have solve x plus 2 is equal to 4. In this situation, all the variables or all the quantities here are alone. Okay, so here, remember, this is a variable. Variables are usually alphabet A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and they are always what you are solving for in an equation, and you have to focus on your variable always. So this is our variable, and these other ones are constants. So the numerical values are the constants, and the alphabet is the variable. Like I said initially, you are always solving for the variable. This is your variable, that's what you're solving for. This is your variable, you're solving for it, and this is your variable. So always use your eyes to know and target what you are solving for. At this point, we want to make the variable stand alone, which means isolate the variable to stand alone on one side of the equation. Here, the variable is on the left hand side, while on the right hand side we have 4. So what can we do to make this variable stand alone on the left hand side? It simply means we need to move 2 to the right hand side. If we can move 2 to the right hand side, then x remains alone. Very, very necessary. But then what sign is associated with 2 there? 2 has a plus, and the opposite of a plus is a minus. If we had a division, then it's going to be a multiplication. Same. So if we have a multiplication, it's a division, and if we have a minus, it's an addition. So let's do that. We have to subtract 2 from both sides because it is an addition up there. So x plus 2 is equal to 4. That was the original equation. Remember that. So now we can now subtract 2 from both sides. This is what we are doing for us to make x stand alone. So let's write it down. Subtract. We can put it down. Subtract 2 from both sides. Doing that, 2 minus 2, obviously you know that's 0. Different sign, subtract. There is no need to write that 0. X will stand alone by itself, and then 4 minus 2 is what? Is 2. So this simply means that x is 2. which means if you come back to this very equation and you check, if x is 2, 2 plus 2 is actually equal to 4. It makes sense. That's correct, right? Okay, now before we continue, I want to also point out some basic things we did here. One of those things is that each time we solved, remember, and watch how we kept pushing our answers down. We pushed our answers down, which means the ones on the left hand side, we kept pushing them down. The ones on the right hand side, we still maintained that right hand side, but we kept pushing things down. We didn't combine any of this equation. Hope that's clear. Okay, let's go for the next one. The next one is y, that's number 2. Y minus 3 is equal to 5. Now remember, in this situation, our variable is y. And every time you are solving for the variable, that is what you are solving for in an equation. And for you to solve for that variable in an equation, you need to make it stand alone, which means you want to isolate it. Here, how can we isolate this variable? By simply moving 3 to the other side, which is the right hand side, because 3 is on the left hand side. If we can move it to the right hand side, then we have y all by itself. But mind you, 3 has the sign minus, so because it's a minus, we have to add. Doing that, we'll now say add 3 to both sides. So basically, I'm just doing the opposite thing. From here, we'll have y minus 3, which is the original equation. Very important to write it down. Then we'll give a space, and then we'll write 5, so that we can be able to add 3 to both sides. Remember, we said you have to work on both sides independently. Very, very necessary. So at this point, negative 3 plus 3, when you have different signs, you subtract. So 3 minus 3 is 0. At the end of the day, you're going to have what? Just y by itself, and then 5 plus 3, same signs, you add, you sum it. So 5 plus 3 gives us 8, and that is our final answer. So let's check. If you ask yourself, if you bring it into this place now, if y is 8, because they say y is equal to 8, if y is 8, 8 minus 3 is equal to 5. It makes sense. That's very simple. For the last one, which is question number 3, you have 10 is equal to 2 plus k. Now this one looks a little bit confusing, but it's actually the same thing, nothing different. Now on the left hand side, we have 10, and on the right hand side, we have 2 plus k. K is our variable, 10 and 2 are the constants, and you know, always you are solving for the variable. So here, our variable is k, and that is what we are solving for. For us to solve for k, which simply means make k stand by itself on the right hand side alone. What do we need to do? We need to move 2 to this other end. If we can move 2 to this other end, the left hand side, it simply means we can have k all by itself. That simply means isolating k. To do that, we need to look at 2. 2 does not really have a sign in front of it. Remember, the sign of a number is the sign in front of it to the left. Whenever a number does not have a sign, it simply means it's a positive number. So because it's a positive number, what do? We do the opposite, to subtract. Simple. So what can we do here? We subtract 2 from both sides. Very necessary you write it down so that I can remember. So let's bring the original equation. That is what we simply say, put it down. So 10 is here, remember always, and then 2 plus k is here. What do? We subtract 2 from both sides. Subtract 2. So this is 2 minus 2. Okay, 10 minus 2 gives us 8. Remember, you just put it down on this side. Is equal to, we are treating every side of this equation independently. So 2 minus 2 is 0. You know that. Remember, the sign here is plus and the sign here is minus. Different signs, subtract. 2 minus 2 gives us 0. And we are left with what? K. Because any value without a sign in front of it is plus. So the sign of k here is plus, and the sign of k here is also plus. It makes sense. It's very much correct. So if 8 is equal to k, it simply means that therefore k is also equal to 8. Any way you write it is right. So you must not write it as k is equal to 8. If 8 is equal to k, that simply means that k is equal to 8, and that makes sense. So this is just how you make this one-step linear equation. Very simple for you. Now let's check to know if our answer is correct. Coming to this place, if k is 8, 2 plus 8 is 10. That makes sense. That's correct. Very simple. Okay, so on to the next phase of this very lesson when we talk about a situation when the variables are together. So remember, initially we talked about a situation when the variables are alone, when they're standing alone, they're not together. Here they are together. So if you look at this place, we have AB is equal to C. So we are going to do same thing like we did before, but now we are going to use another approach. So because these are all variables, we don't have values, we are still going to employ the same principle. But then whenever they are together like A, B, you don't have a plus or a minus separating them. It simply means they are multiplying. Take note, whenever the variables are together, there is no plus or minus separating them. It simply means they are together. And when they are together, they are multiplying. So take note, they are multiplying, and the opposite of multiplication is division. That's it. So for here, assuming we want to solve for A, it simply means we have to what? Move B to this other end. That is what it simply means. Okay, moving B simply means what? Because they are together, we will divide. So AB divided by B is equal to C divided by B, which can also be written as AB over B, that's division, is equal to C over B. From this point, this B will cancel this B. You're left with cross multiplication or cancelling out. So B and B will cancel out, and then only A remains here. Then at this point, C over B. They cannot cancel out because we don't know the quantities they are. Now they can also ask you to solve for B. So if you have AB is equal to C and you are asked to solve for B, what it simply means is that you have to make B stand alone on this left hand side. Remember, on the right hand side we have C. To make this B stand alone on the right hand side, it means what? We need to move A to this other end. Moving A to this other end simply means what? We divide both sides by A. So let me put it down this time around. Divide both sides by A. Doing that, we have AB over A is equal to C over A. The A is cancelled out, and then at the end of the day, I left with B is equal to C over A. I want you to pay attention to how we always put our answers down. We just keep pushing our answers down. And as I pushing our answers down, we always make sure that we treat each side of the equation independently. And aside that, we also make sure that whatever we do to the equation on the left hand side is also same thing that we do to the equation on the what? On the right hand side. Just that in some situation they have to cancel out and then make one of the variable also stand alone, or they have to subtract. So just make sure you follow this pattern. That is the right way you can be able to crack this code of linear equation. So let's go ahead and solve some questions. For the first one, we have 2x is equal to 8, and remember, in this situation x is our variable, so this is our variable. But now we have a new concept here. This is our coefficient. Coefficient is the number that is written together with a variable. That's the coefficient, and this one remains our constant. We've talked about this in the previous slide. So this is the new concept we have now, and as always, you are solving for what? The variable. So you're solving for the variable, and the variable. That is your goal. You want to make the variable stand by itself on one side of the equation. Doing that, because we have 2x is equal to 8 and we are solving for x, we want it to stand alone. It simply means we have to move these two to this other side. Because they are together, remember they are together, and we said when they are together, they are simply what? Multiplying. So because they are together and they are multiplying, we have to do the opposite, and that opposite is what? Division. That is what we have to do. What are we going to divide by? We are going to use the coefficient to divide. You always have to what? Use the coefficient to divide. So we are going to divide both sides by 2 because 2 is the coefficient. Doing that, we have 2x over 2 is equal to 8 over 2. That's division. The 2's cancel out and we are left with x alone on the left hand side, and then equal to 8 divided by 2 is 4. That is what it simply means. Now remember, they are multiplying. So if they are multiplying, if x is 4 here, if x is 4, 2 times 4 gives you 8. It makes sense, very easy. Let's go to the next question. The next question says 3x is equal to 12. As always, you know we are solving for what? X, which is the variable. And here, 3 is the coefficient, while 12 is the what? Constant. So 12 is on the right hand side. On the left hand side, we have 3x. They are together. And you know we are solving for x. So let's go ahead and solve. Because they are together, what? It simply means they are multiplying. So we have to divide. We divide both sides by the coefficient. So divide both sides by 3. 3 is the coefficient. Remember here, 2 was the coefficient. So based on what the coefficient is, that's what you have to do. So if the coefficient is 5, you divide by 5. If it is 2, divide by 2. If it is 3, divide by 3. So let's go ahead. 3x over 3 is equal to 12 over 3. The 3's cancel out, and then x is equal to 12 divided by 3 is what? 4. Right? That is it. So if you check, since they are together, they are multiplying. Let's check. They are multiplying. 3 times 4 is 12. This makes sense. Very easy. Don't complicate it. Just keep it simple. Let's go for the next question, which says 14 is equal to 7y. So here, our variable is what? Is y. The coefficient is 7. And the constant is 14. So don't be confused about whether you have it on the left hand side or the right hand side. It doesn't change anything. It makes no difference. So this is the right hand side and this is the left hand side. Okay, so because we are solving for our variable, what do? They are together. So because they are together, we have to divide. So divide both sides by 7, which is the coefficient. You always have to divide by the coefficient. Divide both sides by 7. So we have 14. Okay, 14 is equal to 7y, but divide by 7. Divide by 7. So the 7's here cancel out. Y stands alone by itself. 14 divided by 7 gives us 2. And it makes sense. Y is equal to 2 or 2 is equal to y. That is exactly the same thing. If you come to this point and you check, if y is 2, 7 times 2 gives us 14. It makes sense, and that is how it should be. So easy. We have another situation when the variables are together. So for instance, we have a over b is equal to c. Now remember, we talked about the other situation when we have something like ab. So they are together like this and they are being combined by multiplication. So whenever you have them as a fraction, here a is the numerator and b is the denominator, they are joined by division. And you know the opposite of division is what? That's multiplication. So let's go ahead and do that. So from division we go to multiplication. Assuming we want to solve for a, it simply means we have to move b to this other end. So to move b to this other end, because they are dividing, we have to multiply. And what is that system of multiplication called? It's called cross multiplication. Okay, you can as well say multiply both sides by b. So let's do that so that you see it. Multiply both sides by b. So we now have a over b, which was what we had initially, multiplied by b on the left hand side, is equal to c multiplied by b on the right hand side. So we are multiplying both sides by b. Now when they multiply, you have something like ab over b, because a times b is just ab over b, equal to c times b is cb. Now, do you know that you can cancel out b? At the end of the day, you are going to be left with a is equal to cb. So this is one approach you can use. Or, since you have a over b is equal to c, you can say cross multiply. So if we cross multiply here, it simply means a multiplied by, you can make this one over 1, multiplied by 1 is equal to then c multiplied by b. So it simply means using whatever you have here to multiply this other end and using whatever you have here to multiply this other end. But I don't like to draw that so that the work doesn't look rough. Having said that, a multiplied by 1 is a, and then c multiplied by b still gives us cb. You can as well just write a, since there is no number here, so you can just say a is equal to c multiplied by b. It makes sense. You can see that the answer we have here is exactly the same answer we have here. So whatever one that makes more sense to you, work with it, but ensure that whatever you are doing on the left hand side, you are also doing that on the right hand side. That is very, very necessary. So either you work with this method or you can use this method, cross multiply. I know this is simple and it makes sense to you. Let's go ahead and solve some questions. Okay, here we have x over 4, so that's non-negative x, sorry. So that's x over 4 is equal to 5. That's the question, not negative x. So x over 4 is equal to 5. For this question, we are meant to solve for the variable. You know, always you are meant to solve for the variable, and the variable is always an alphabet, not the numerical value. Here, the variable is x. In this other situation, it is y. So that tells us what we are solving for and what we need to focus on. So let's continue. We can actually say multiply both sides by 4. So let's do that. The original equation on the left hand side is x over 4, then multiply by 4. So we've done that on the left hand side. Let's do same on the right hand side. Then we can now have 5 multiplied by 4. At the end of the day, we can actually cancel out these 4's here like this, and then we are left with only x is equal to 5 times 4 is what? 20, and that's our answer. And if you check here, it makes sense, because if x is 20 divided by 4 gives you 5. That makes sense. Okay, another way you can actually do this was, since you had x over 4 is equal to 5, you can simply cross multiply. So if you cross multiply here, whenever you are cross multiplying and the number on the other side of the equation does not have a fraction or is not a fraction, just make it over 1 to make things easy for you. So here we can now say that x multiplied by 1 is equal to 4 multiplied by 5, or 5 multiplied by 4. Anyone makes sense, because 4 times 5 is 20 and 5 times 4 is also 20. So x times 1 is just x. Whenever a value or a variable multiply 1, it is that same value or variable. 2 times 1 2, 3 times 1 3, 4 times 1 4. Makes sense, right? Okay, and then 4 times 5 is 20. So it gives us the same answer. Whatever approach that works best for you, make do with that approach, work with it. So let's go for the next one. Here we have y over 2 is equal to 10. So let's multiply both sides by 2, right? Okay, so let's write it down. Multiply both sides by 2. So y over 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 10 multiplied by 2. Reason being because these guys are dividing, is a fraction. So another way of talking about division is having a fraction, and the opposite of division is what? Multiplication. Now remember, they are not being joined. It's not like we have y plus 2. Assuming it's y plus 2, what do? We have to subtract. And it's not like we have 2y. Assuming we have 2y, they are multiplying, and what do we have to do? We have to what? We have to divide. So we're just doing the opposite. Okay, so doing that, y times 2 gives us what? 2y. 2y over 2 is equal to 10 times 2 is 20. From here, you can as well cancel out. You understand? You can either say 2 cancels out 2 here, and then you're left with y standing alone. So whatever approach is fine. So let's continue. At this point, the 2's can now cancel out, and then you're left with y alone is equal to 20. So whatever approach that works fine for you, make sure you use it, and it's just very simple. You can as well still say cross multiply here. Doing that is still simple. It works perfectly well. Okay, I believe you understand this. Let's go to two-step linear equation. Okay, two-step linear equation. Now we have a situation when the variables are together and also alone. So we have them combined this time around, and it's not difficult. So we have a, b plus c is equal to d. So if you look at this point, you notice that a and b are combined, and then c is standing alone, and d is also standing alone. At this point, we need to start from the first situation where they are alone. So let's start from when they are alone before we talk about when they are together. Remember, that's the first one. With that, the sequence will follow. So let's solve for any of the variable here. So let's say we want to solve for a. If we want to solve for a in this situation, what it simply means is that we have to move c to this right hand side and also move b to this right hand side. So remember, this is your left hand side and this is your right hand side. Doing that, because c is alone and c has a plus, so it has a plus, what do? We subtract. Okay, so we can say ab plus c is equal to d, and to take away c, like move it to this other end, we do what? We subtract c from both sides. Let's do that. So we have AB plus C minus C is equal to D minus C. So make sure you do that on the both side of the equation. So at the end of the day here, C minus C just goes away, and then I left with AB. AB is equal to D minus C. But mind you, we have not solved for A yet. Like, we don't have A standing by itself alone yet. So because of that, what do we have to do? Since it is together, now we've solved for the one when it is alone. Like, we have the situation alone, we've solved that, which is C. Now let's solve for the situation where they are together, which is here where we have AB. Let's do that. Because we're solving for A, what do we have to do? They are multiplying. Since they are together, we have to divide both sides by B. So since they are multiplying, we divide. Remember, whenever they are together in this fashion, it means they are multiplying. Assuming they are like a fraction, it means they are dividing. So divide both sides by B. Doing that, to have AB over B is equal to D minus C all over B. So that's simple. The B's can cancel out here, and then A is equal to D minus C over B. It's simple, nothing complex. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, what I want you to do right now is pause this video, go through this very one again, or join us to solve some question. You're going to definitely see that it is simple. Let's go. Okay, we'll have a question here that says 2y plus 4 equal to 18. Like always, you are solving for what? The variable. And here our variable is y. So remember, this is coefficient. Remember from the previous slide, this is a constant, and this is also a constant. Okay, because we have a situation where the variable is together, like here, and also we have a situation where there is a value that is alone, what do we need to do? We need to remove the one that is alone first, then we'll talk about the one that is together. The one that is alone here is positive 4, right? So because it's positive 4, we need a negative 4. So because it's positive, we just do the opposite. Reason being, because we want to move 4 to this other end and also move 2 to this other end. They are on the left hand side of the equation. We want to move them to the right hand side. Okay, so let's continue. We can now say subtract 4 from both sides. Doing that, we have 2y plus 4 minus 4 is equal to 18 minus 4. Plus 4 minus 4, 4 minus 4, that's just 0, it goes away. We are left with 2y on the left hand side is equal to 18 minus 4 is 14 on the right hand side. So you see, we are working on both sides at the same time. Okay, from this point, we have 2y is equal to 14. Now they are together in this situation. Whenever they are together in this sense, it simply means they are what? Multiplying. So if they are multiplying, what do? We divide. That's the opposite. Okay, so we have to what? Divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 2 in this situation. If the coefficient is 5, divide by 5. So 2y over 2 is equal to 14 over 2. Cancel out here, then y stands alone. 14 divided by 2 is 7, and that is our answer. Okay, let's check here. If y is 7, 2 times 7 is 14 plus 4 is equal to 18. Makes sense, and that's correct. So it's actually easy. Let's go to the next question. We have 3k minus 6 is equal to 24, and you know we are solving for k, the variable here. So we have a situation where it is alone, and then also have a situation where we have them together. So let's start from the first one. The one that is alone here is 6, right? Okay, 6 is alone, and we have a negative for that 6. What do? We have to add. So we'll just do the opposite, okay? Because we need to move 6 to this end of the equation and also move 3 to this other end. Okay, doing that, we can say add, because it's a minus here, add 6 to both sides. We can now have 3k minus 6 plus 6 is equal to 24 plus 6. This 6 goes away. Minus 6 plus 6, different signs, subtract. So we now have 3k on the left hand side is equal to 24 plus 6 is 30. So since we have 30 here, what do? We know that these ones are together, and when they are together in this sense, it means they are what? Multiplying. So what do? We divide. So divide both sides by the coefficient, which is 3. We now have 3k over 3 is equal to 30 over 3. These 3's here cancel out, and then k is equal to 30 divided by 3 is 10. Now let's check. If k happens to be 10, then 3 times 10 is 30. 30 subtract 6 from 30, that gives you 24. That's correct. Okay, for the next question, 25 is equal to 3y plus 10. Now don't be confused when you have your variable on the right hand side of the equation. It doesn't change anything actually. So now we have, this is the left hand side and this is the right hand side. We need to move this 10 to this end and also need to move this 3 to this end. To do that, we need to understand that we have a situation where one quantity here is alone and the other one is together with the variable. So let's start with the one that is alone. Since the one that is alone is this plus 10, we'll need a negative 10. So subtract 10 from both sides. Okay, so 25 minus 10 is equal to 3y plus 10 minus 10. So you do that on both sides. 25 minus 10 will have 15. Then 3y stands alone here because 10 minus 10 is just 0. Different sign, subtracts. What do we need to do from this point? Because we have combined situation here when they are together, and when we said when they are together in this sense, what do? We divide because they're actually multiplying here. Okay, so doing that, we divide both sides by the coefficient. Divide both sides by the coefficient. The coefficient here is 3. So 15 over 3 is equal to 3y over 3. The 3's cancel out here. So y stands alone by itself. 15 divided by 3 is 5, and that's correct. So therefore y is actually equal to 5. But this answer in this form still makes sense, because if 5 is equal to y, it actually means that y is equal to 5. So anyhow you want to write it makes sense. It doesn't have to be on the right hand side or the left hand side, but it just has to be equal to each other. It's an equation. Okay, let's bring 5 into this place and see. 3 multiplied by 5 is 15 plus 10, 25. So it makes sense. That's correct. Having said that, we've come to the end of this very lesson on cracking the secret code of one-step and two-step linear equation, brought to you by Precision Academic World. So we have a comprehension. We're not yet done. So these are the questions you have to solve on your own. Do this question on your own, and once you solve it, come back to this page and put your answers in the comment section. These are very, very simple, and we believe you can do it. Like you just have this skill. So go ahead, solve the questions and put your answers back in the comment section. Thank you for staying to the end. God bless you really good.